So this is the SJCAM SJ8 Pro and this is the GoPro Hero 6 Black. $250 and $500 respectively, almost half the price of the GoPro, and the SJCAM bills itself as a GoPro competitor, but can they battle it out? Let's find out. So both these cameras are capable of filming 4K 60 FPS, and in this video I'm filming my dog walking around the backyard, and in terms of detail they are very close. But I watched this on my massive 50-inch 4K TV, and on that screen you can tell a very slight difference in detail. Let me replicate that by zooming in. You can see that the detail on the grass from the SJCAM is slightly less detailed than the one on the GoPro, but again, it's super duper hard to tell if your screen is not, 50 inches. Even on my 32-inch 2K screen, I had some trouble telling the difference. So let's slow down the footage by half, and there really isn't any difference in terms of smoothness. They are equally as good. Two more things to talk about here. The color reproduction is slightly deeper on the GoPro than the SJCAM, where stuff is a little less saturated in terms of color, and this actually goes hand in hand with contrast and dynamic range. The GoPro captures better dynamic range. Also in 4K 60 FPS, you can see that the SJCAM loses a little bit more detail in the super bright and the super dark spots compared to the GoPro. And let's move on to filming at 4K 30 FPS, and this is where the results are a little surprising. Again, I was watching this on my 50-inch TV, so I could see it a lot easier probably than you can on your phone or laptop or tablet, but the SJCAM actually beat the GoPro very slightly in terms of detail, which I was not expecting at all. But once you start moving fast, the SJCAM starts artifacting slightly more than the GoPro. However, as a non-reviewer, if you watch both these videos, I'm fairly certain you will like the GoPro one better, not just because of the detail, but because of the dynamic range and contrast. They're just better than the SJCAM. The detail on the SJCAM is good, again, but the dynamic range and contrast are lacking, not only in 4K 30, but 4K 60 FPS also. So it looks like this is, across the board. Alright, so continuing on with 4K at 30 FPS, however, this time let's look at the electronic image stabilization with the gyroscope, and both these cameras crop about 10% of their image size to stabilize it properly, and both these cameras also don't have optical image stabilization, but they do have electronic in this case. Okay, so the GoPro here is the clear winner. The gyro does a better job stabilizing on the GoPro than on the SJCAM. That being said, the SJCAM is not that far away from the GoPro, but it's still not good enough. I will say that the GoPro stabilization is actually pretty good for an action camera, but if you are going to be using this, you really want to be using a gimbal if you want to get the full use out of the GoPro or the SJCAM. But I will say that the GoPro comes handy in a pinch because the EIS on the GoPro is better than the SJCAM. The other mode you guys will be using mostly is 1080p at 120 FPS. And let's talk about the detail first. 1080p is honestly so easy at this point for both these cameras that there really isn't a huge difference in level of detail. However, there is a difference in the color reproduction here, and notice the GoPro has a much darker shade of red for the shirt I'm wearing compared to the SJCAM, and in this situation I like the SJCAM's color better. Moving on to slow-mo, you get 120 FPS, and both these cameras do a good job capturing smooth slow-mo, so again, there's no clear winner in this category here. So before we end this video, I want to talk about two more things, and first is the sound. Now the GoPro obviously wins the sound game here because you don't need a waterproof case to put over the GoPro because the GoPro is already waterproof. So there really isn't any plastic case blocking the mic, so it's going to capture much better audio than the SJCAM inside the case. So once you remove the case from the SJCAM, does the true test of audio quality start becoming apparent. Now the GoPro captures audio beautifully. Even a shrill and honestly kind of annoying bark from my dog, it was captured without distortion, and when I played it back, it's very close to the original. On the other hand, the SJCAM seems to capture some distortion, and the audio is generally not as good. So have a listen to my annoying dog barking at my face. Come here. What you doing? You little girl. Let's talk about the distortion correction. Both cameras have the distortion correction, and I turned it off on the SJCAM to show you what it looks like without it beside the GoPro, which it does have it on. And on the SJCAM, it looks like the entire video is squashed, so everything looks fat, including myself and my dog, compared to the GoPro, which looks a little bit better. But thankfully, you can turn on distortion correction on the SJCAM, and once you do that, the distortion goes away, so there really is no winner in the distortion category here. And second, let's talk about the photo capture. And the first we're going to talk about again is detail. And honestly, the SJCAM and the GoPro are neck and neck. There really is no clear winner between these in terms of detail. However, you're probably looking at both these photos and thinking, you know what, the GoPro's photo obviously looks better. So what are you talking about? And I'm going to say right now, you guys are not wrong. But the reason why the GoPro's photo looks better is not because it has a better detail. It's because it has better dynamic range and contrast, and let me explain. So first, as a control, let's look at the detail on the leaf, and they are for all intents and purposes the same in terms of the amount of detail. However, if we zoom out and look at the white part of my dog's fur, the GoPro actually captures some detail of hair where the SJCAM does not. And the SJCAM generally looks a little bit more washed out than the GoPro, because if something is too bright, it just captures it as white instead of getting some detail. So let's conclude. I am very surprised if we are just talking about the amount of detail captured from each action camera. They are neck and neck. The GoPro gets slightly better detail some of the time, and the SJCAM wins in others, but they are really about the same. The photo quality is similar, detail in both are amazing. However, where the GoPro beats the SJCAM is color capture and dynamic range. The SJCAM cannot capture as good dynamic range and contrast as the GoPro, and as a result, you do lose some detail in super dark or super bright areas of the SJCAM where you do not on the GoPro. So if we are talking purely about the quality of the video and the photo, the SJCAM totally beats the GoPro. And why is that? Because at just $260, it captures the same amount of detail as the GoPro and loses a little bit in dynamic range. But to be honest, saving that $250 is totally worth it. Not to mention you get a ton of accessories with the SJCAM, but with the GoPro you get maybe one accessory with it or none at all. However, video quality is not all there is to an action camera, and for my final verdict, definitely check out my full review coming soon down below. Be sure to subscribe, and you can click on the bell icon to make sure you're notified of the review when it drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.